Thank you for checking out New Dice. Means a lot. Anyone who participated in the last video, thank you so much. Timestamps are below. We will put a bow on the last episode of New Dice where the discussion was dragging your feet as a DM. We'll put a bow on that episode here in a little bit. I also want to talk about something I'd recommend you adding to your game. New GMs, new DMs. Maybe looking at a smaller group, I've got something for you. That's going to be the main topic today. We'll get to that in just a second. I did want to mention, because I have seen the feedback and I love it. This is what you're getting right here in terms of these videos. And I see a lot of great YouTube videos out there covering the hobby of TTRPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, all this stuff, actual plays. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of so many of you who can make amazing videos with your editing, even content-wise. This is a new channel. I'm new to all this. I will guarantee you the editing is never going to be a forte on this channel. I don't know how to do it. And I don't know that I have the time to do all of it as well. But I hope we can enjoy, and you can enjoy this community for what it is. And I hope we have fun with it. I think we have been so far. For those of you who have been telling other people about this channel, holy smokes, that means everything to me. Thank you so much. It blows my mind. I think we're over 100 subscribers, which is crazy to me. So thank you. But I just wanted to get a little news and notes on what this channel is and how it's going for me. Full disclosure, I released last week's video. I want to do these on Sundays. I released last week's midweek because last weekend I was watching the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. So I was like, okay, well, I released one midweek. Do I release another one on the weekend? That last video's only been out for a couple days. I think I want to stay consistent to Sundays. Again, I don't know the YouTube game. I don't know how the channel is supposed to work. There's some people, I forget the guy's name. He is a spectacular, let me see if I can get him here. He's a spectacular D&D YouTuber. Let's see, what is his name? It's like Adariad or something like that. Let me see if I can find him real quick. This is not how Adariad. He's over 32,000 subscribers now. He released a video about how his channel's growing, and it was just amazing how much work he puts into it. And I was like, oh no, I want this channel to succeed. I want it to grow. I want it to get better. But I was looking at guys like that. I'm like, there's a reason why some people are meant to do this and their channels are meant to blow up. So props to the people who do that. If you're here watching this one, I hope we can get to a level where we're growing and we're getting cool like that. But just know, I'm new to all this. I don't know the game. I don't know how to work the system. This is just what it is. It's me making content to provide you, and hopefully it's enjoyable as part of your D&D or TTRPG week. Okay. New GM here, check it in. Sean is my name, and new DMing is sort of my game. I wanted to bring something up that I brought into one of my tables, and this would be motivational, potentially, to those of you who are new DMs who found themselves in a position that I was in. In fact, we had a comment, and I wish I remembered who it was by, but we had a comment on one of the last videos about someone else who had been mulling over starting a table, but just didn't know if they had the people in place to play the game. And turned out they didn't have a lot of their friends available. One or two people wanted to play. And I'll tell you, when you're getting into the hobby of this and you're reading about how to do it, a lot of the stuff you see has the table built for 4 or 5 PCs. And for me, and I know for others as well, when you're trying to get into it and it's new, you want as much of what you can have at the table to be status quo as to what you've read about. Because I'm not ready to modify a bunch of monsters or encounters quite yet. I'm just trying to learn how to do it. So I think some people like me found themselves in a position where when they started GMing, the opportunity to have a lot of players wasn't there, and they started with just a few players. My very first GMing experience was with my little brother, who I love to death, and he was able to sit down and play some D&D with me. And we added something, and then this was added into the table when we got one other person. So we had 2 players at my table trying to figure out how to do all this. Players who were new to D&D. I was new to running D&D. I can't imagine what those games look like if I went back and saw them now. I can't imagine knowing much more that I do now, so much more than I do now, but than back then. That had to be just those had to be hilarious sessions. But here's what I did, and here's what I'd recommend to you. I thought it was so fun. Companions. And I think a lot of people have covered companions, and, there's books. It was either Tasha, I think it was Tasha's Cauldron of Everything had rules for companion play in D&D, and they were cool and they were great. But here's what we did, and this was very fun. So in my campaign, I knew I had my brother, Bartholomew James III. That barbarian was going to be out there hacking and slashing. My other buddy came in with a wizard. So I had a barbarian and a wizard. I knew I had those things, and I was terrified of combat because I didn't want to kill their characters, and I thought I was going to overwhelm them. What did I do? Well, in the beautiful city of Baldur's Gate, where we had started off our game, there was a shop, Blacksmiths and Boggles. Blacksmiths and Boggles. Now, I got Boggles from this here book that I'm holding up, Volo's Guide to Monsters. There's a picture of them, Boggles. So I saw they could be maybe a fun companion to have in the game. What did I do? And this is fun, and I think you steal away. Always steal away from me. The blacksmith portion was obviously a blacksmith in town. But what this blacksmith dwarf had found, he had found on his adventures a group of Boggles. I don't know if Boggles exist in groups or not. I don't know much about them. I just know they entered my game in our world. And he had found a group of these Boggles that were lost and looking for their way. And he befriended them, brought them into his world, into his blacksmith shop. And these Boggles worked so hard to help him out with his business. And what he ended up finding was that these Boggles loved going on adventurers. So they became adventurers for hire. So when my gigantic group of one showed up to this blacksmith and Boggles, he was met with this opportunity. The blacksmith was working on maybe getting him some equipment that he needed. And look what I have here. Lo and behold, I have got some potential adventurers for hire. You don't want to go out in this world by yourself with that 1 or 2 players that I had. And what I did is I had a bunch of character sheets, and I created all the classes that we didn't have that are just the main normal classes at the time in 2014 D&D from the Player's Handbook. I made a very basic, we were level 3 at the time, I made level 3 characters for each class that wasn't represented. And I presented them as sort of a menu of adventurers for my group. And they chose the Ranger, which I think was more of a shout out to me. Ranger's my favorite class. And so I think they didn't know how the extra character was going to be used. I think they thought I was going to play it, so they got the Ranger, which I was thankful for because I love it. So they get this Ranger, Drab the Boggle, and he joins their party. And what did I do with him? Well, I just gave that character sheet that I created to my 2 players. I said, this is your guy. He is not going to help with any NPC interactions in RP. In fact, I made it so my Boggles couldn't communicate with the PCs. They didn't speak the same language my PCs spoke. And so they couldn't communicate with this. It just made grunting sounds. Hemming and Hahn would shrug its shoulders every now and then, but it seemed to understand the PCs. And it was just there for combat. And what they would do is they would take this Boggle into combat. I thought the Boggle was kind of cool because it could manipulate some oil spills around the map that would be difficult terrain for enemies. It has like a rift in it, so it could rift across the map, which I thought was kind of cool, which also helped for the Ranger portion of it. And they would take turns during combat. My brother would run him for 1 round, and then the next round, he'd give it to our buddy, Dalton, and he'd run it for a round, and we'd go back and forth running the Boggle in combat. So he was just there doing it. This companion became beloved by the characters. He was like one of our favorite parts of every session was what's Drab gonna do? And he really helped out with combat. He helped out with me with just being able to do some things in planning encounters that I didn't have to tone down stuff. If it was a pre-made encounter because they could take stuff on. And then this guy it became this fun RP character in our game as well, because of course they fell in love with Drab and they wanted to talk to him. And so slowly on these couple adventures we ran, they would try to spend their downtime teaching him little words like he was a baby. And so slowly Drab knew just a few words to communicate with them, which was really fun. They ended up getting him to leave Blacksmiths and Boggles. He left that and became part of their party, and they split the loot 3 ways when they were out, and he was part of the group. But it was really fun, and it was a great way to do 2 things. One, it was a great way to get the combat, give another angle to combat so that the combat could be a little more difficult, which was fun. And the other thing that was really fun for me as a new GM, I got to see how another class worked inside of the game. Having never GM'd, you don't know, like, what is each class going to bring to combat from a GM's perspective? It was fun to get to see, here's what a ranger can bring in. Here are some things when I DM a game in the future with rangers in it. Here are some things that work and don't work with them around. Here are some things that they can shine with. And it also let my characters, the PCs, they got to mess around with another class as well, which was really cool. So, I've got my barbarian, I had my wizard. There's things that ranger can do that's different with firing off their arrows and hunter's mark and stuff, and they got to mess around with that. And I think that was really cool for them as well. So I'd recommend throwing a companion in. I'd recommend Boggles. They were great, but you can go through your monster manual, open this bad boy up, find a race in there that you like, and throw it onto a character sheet and make yourself a couple characters, a menu of adventurers that your characters can choose between. And I do know we had this moment at our table that you might as well. We were like, well, how do we level them up? Because I think, again, Tasha's. In that book, there's like a very specific way to level up companions. Are we going to do that? And it was like, what do the rules say? This was one of those moments I was like, this is our table. What do our rules say? Our rules say he's leveling up when you level up. He's got a character sheet. We're going to level him up like you'd level up a normal ranger. When we hit level 4, he goes to level 4, and we level him up. You guys can do that amongst yourselves. Roll hit dice for his hit points and all that stuff, and it was really fun. Very, very fun. Okay, that's what I'd recommend. Throw a companion in there. That was too much talking. Someone mentioned in the comments, long-winded. In fact, let's put a bow on last week's episode, or the last episode, stop dragging your DM feet. I don't think this was meant to be mean. I'm just bringing this up because if you're at this channel, you're going to learn it. At B-Lin says, my dude, take a breath. Now, I think that was more of just take a beat. I was talking about the concerns of being a DM and how it can be scary. And B-Lin, my dude, take a breath. I think that's fair. Also, I talk fast and I have a lot of energy. And I really love this hobby and I love this space. And so I'm excited to talk about it. So we're going to be upbeat here on this channel. But thank you, B-Lin, and overall great comment too besides that. I'm going to cherry pick a few comments from that last episode, Stop Dragging Your DM Feet. Let's see what we've got in the comments. This one from Jacob Church Ward True Red 116. And I'm reading it because of the first sentence. Also a Seahawks fan. It was great watching them win. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I also recently wrapped up my very first campaign, which I'd been planning in part for nearly 9 years. I'd wanted to run my own game for a while, but only just recently worked up the courage to ask some friends to play it. Jacob, it's one of the hardest things to ask your friends to play it because if they say no, you're bummed out. And in my brain, I've got these great plans of us playing D&D together, my friends and I don't want to hear them say no to me. We had a really fun time playing, even if I definitely didn't know the rules as well as I thought I did. I also drew names for certain kingdoms in my game from real life cultures, but I'm pretty sure my players didn't even notice it. That's awesome. I love that. That's great. It's a great idea. And it gets you through stuff. And it is, as people have said in the comments, as a new GM, you're much more critical to everything that's going on at the table than your players are for the most part. And they're happy to be playing. So even if they do notice, it's not like they're going to be like, stop. We cannot play anymore. You cannot just bring in the Yanomami Indians from Venezuela into the conversation like they're not real in right down there by the Orinoco River in Venezuela. That's where I grew up, by the way. Okay, so I like that. And I like your thoughts there. 9 years of planning. I'm glad you got to the table. This one from Jester Freakingly 8915. Hey, Sean. It's been a tradition to come to these videos after a session. Thank you. I'd like to throw my hat into the ring, even though I'm a newer DM than you. The most important thing, at least for me, is to tell a story you and hopefully your players care about. Sure, you can have your players meet in a tavern and fight a group of goblins, and that'll be great. But if you can tie your campaign to something you all feel strongly about, of which you know will make a good story, I think that's 1,000 times better and more engaging for your PCs. I'm basing my whole campaign around the negative consequences of AI, for example. Then I tried to tie, that's a big concept. Then I tried to tie my PCs to that main theme based off what they told me for what they wanted for their characters. This creates an emotional connection between the characters and the crux of the story, and as a result, your players will be more engaged. In my campaign, one person works for the AI company and another wanted to play a vampire hunter, so I made the AI company ran by vampires who use the AI to feed off the energy of its users. That is super creative, by the way. So at least for me, I start with a general theme, sort of the moral of the campaign, then I create the characters' personal connections to that moral. Then I start piecing together broad strokes about the world. Then from there, I narrow it down on a session-to-session basis. The advice I can give is not to plan where the players will go and what they'll do, but to understand what exactly the world is doing without the players and give them opportunities to interfere. I love that idea. Make the world work. Your players are interfering with how the world works. That's really cool. Might be easier to keep track of, honestly, now that you said it. I like how that sounds. Let's do this one real quick. Fred Smith, 1970. I'm relatively new to DMing and TTRPGs. One thing I've learned by trial and error is to not pre-plan everything. You can't. Just have an overarching beats, themes, and plot points, and a few specifics to start off with. If you over-prepare, you'll only find that a lot of that won't come into play due to the player choices going in different directions. But you will find that your game and story will evolve over time and go in directions you'd never even thought of at the start due to that same player agency. In terms of yes and, again, this is something I've gradually learned to do, going from can I search for potions or items and me replying there aren't any because I hadn't planned on there being any, to are there any sacks or boxes I can hide behind? And me saying yes, there are just some off to your left behind a large crate, even though it wasn't there in any of my original plans. Okay. Oh, that would be like, yeah, that's kind of what we talked about. I like that. I like giving the players things they're looking for because even though it wasn't part of the plans, because it just makes them feel like they're making choices that matter. I think ultimately the story is collectively written by both the players and the DM. Thank you so much. And then I got one from the Bard's College. I got to read it because I love the Bard's College. I think this guy is great. At the Bard's College YT. People underestimate how hard it is to put yourself out there creatively in front of others and even close friends. From what you've mentioned in other videos, though, it sounds like you're doing great. For prep, I like having a very good idea of what my players will be doing for the first few sessions. Detailed cities, NPCs, encounters, etc. And then vague idea of everything else. That way, I can continue to build a campaign as my players make choices and find what they and I are most interested in. Congrats on the big win. Thank you. The Super Bowl win was huge. Of course, the Bard's College comes in with an awesome idea. Of course. Get those first sessions. This makes sense. Get those first sessions very well planned out. It also lets you as a GM have a really good structure to play with at the beginning. And then you can get vague and go out from there moving forward. All right, I really want to keep these videos under 15 minutes. We failed at that today. Sorry. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, do the thing. I really want to play games with you guys. If you guys and gals want to play, go to the posts section. Is it comments or posts or whatever it is on the YouTube channel? I do a post after I make the video, and that's kind of, I thought it would be for discussion. I don't know why I do it. I don't know why. I think I saw someone say it works for getting your video out there. I don't know if it does, but go there. If you want to play games, let's play games. I would love to run some games for some of you out there who are either new to this or old to this, and let you just rake me through the coals on how bad the sessions are. Or maybe we'll have a great time. Thanks.